Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to the Ingles Furman Radio Network game preview for this week. I am Dan Scott, the voice of the Paladins. Thank you for joining us, and over the course of the next 15 minutes or so, we'll give you a little bit of insight into some of the things we are looking at from a radio broadcast perspective for this matchup. This week, Death Valley in Clemson, the Paladins and the number 4 ranked Clemson Tigers getting ready to do battle. First time since 2018 that these teams have gotten together, and it'll be the third time in my tenure here at Furman that the Paladins have played Clemson at Death Valley. It's going to be an intriguing matchup. Obviously, as any of the coaches will tell you, a lot would have to go right for the Paladins to be in a position to win this game late, but I can promise you that's what they are preparing for. And sometimes it takes things that you have no control over. And if you look at the weather forecast for Saturday at Death Valley and really the entire upstate, we could be in for quite a bit of rain. Will that be an equalizer? I don't know, but it could add a little bit of intrigue and perhaps some fun to this matchup. These are some of the things that we do know. Furman is coming off of an impressive 52-0 win over North Greenville, Division II school right up the road. And I say impressive simply from the standpoint that the Paladin coaches, in their minds, ticked every box they wanted to tick in that game. It was an opponent they felt like they should beat. They should beat rather handedly. And they were able to do that. And really, if you watched or listened to the broadcast on Thursday night, September the 1st, when Furman opened up, in the second half, they really scaled it back, kept the clock running. As Clay Hendricks told me, there were some third downs where we ran the football in the second half that we probably would have thrown it in another game. But the thing that was most important to the coaches, and I talked to Dwayne Vaughn, the defensive coordinator, and Justin Roper, the offensive coordinator, like I do every week. And independently of one another, they both used the same word to describe what they were most happy about in that performance on Thursday night, September 1st. And that word was clean. They played a clean game. And what they mean by that? Well, there were no pre-snap penalties to speak of. I think one delay of game in the entire game. There were no pre-snap penalties on the defensive side of the ball. There were no post-snap penalties, no late hits, no unsportsmanlike conduct, none of those kind of infractions. There was one pass interference penalty, and that was an aggressive play by Travis Blackshear that Dwayne Vaughn said he'll live with each and every Saturday. So from that standpoint, getting in and out of the offensive formations for the first time under the lights, literally and figuratively, first game of the season for Justin Roper and his offense here at Furman, and not having alignment and assignment issues. That's what the coaches meant by clean, and that's the thing they were most happy about where that game was concerned. Now, you look at Clemson's game with Georgia Tech, and it wasn't quite as clean from a Georgia Tech perspective. They had all kinds of pre-snap issues and other things that seem to have plagued Jeff Collins' coach team since he's been there. From a Clemson standpoint, offensively, it took a while for quarterback DJ Uiagalelei to get comfortable. And in the early part of that game, it caused some fans, if you followed the Twitter feed and some other places that I happened to see, it caused some fans to start immediately having flashbacks and nightmares and complaints about what they saw for all of 2021, in which Uiagalelei went 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and the offense was really, really bogged down for most of the season with some offensive line issues, and injuries played a part in that. They got it rolling a little bit as the game went on. 2 block punts obviously helped set up the offense in good scoring position, and they pulled away for that 41-10 victory down at the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. So from that standpoint, got the win, and I think they'll be looking at this game kind of the way Furman was looking at North Greenville. Can they have a clean football game. Some of the issues that they had in the Georgia Tech game, they look at this game before they get back into conference play or FBS level play, whatever's next on their schedule, as a chance to clean up some of that stuff. And one of the Furman coaches told me our job is to kind of muddy that up a little bit and see if we can't make them have some of the issues that North Greenville had against us on September the 1st. So it's always a chess match. You know, going into a game like this, as I said, that from a Furman standpoint, you have to have a lot of things go right to be in a position to win a game like this. And you're going against a defense that arguably, from a Clemson standpoint, could be the best in the country. Their front, defensive front, 7, maybe 8 guys deep, is starting to remind some people of that defensive front that Furman faced in Death Valley in 2018. Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence, and all of those guys. And we know what their future held. They're all in the NFL now. There are some comparisons to that, maybe not as individually super talented. Maybe they are, but there's an incredible amount of depth there. They have some depth in the secondary, and talking with Justin Roper, he said that, secondary, they don't do anything overly complicated. They basically see what's going on and react, and you can do that when you have that kind of talent up front. A pass rush is the best defense for a secondary, because it makes your job just incredibly easier when you can get pressure with your front four, and then as a defensive coordinator, you can blitz when you want to, as opposing to have to. When we move on in Furman season starting next week at ETSU, I think that's what Dwayne Vaughn is hoping for, that the talent and depth that the Paladins have up front is going to provide them with that kind of luxury more often than not, and allow the strength that he now has in the secondary that he did not have a year ago to really flex itself and make this defense something that could be special. In any event, looking at the one coming up on Saturday at Death Valley, here is some of the game information for you. It is a 3:30 p.m. kick. It's televised on the ACC network. We obviously, if you're not going to be in the stadium, come watch it. We ask you to turn the sound down and listen to the radio broadcast, the live audio stream at Odyssey.com, on the air at 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 in Spartanburg. Series history, Clemson leads 43-10-4, 25-2 at home, 18-8-4 on the road. Last time they met, mentioned 2018, 48-7 win, and Clemson has won the last 31 games in this matchup. Just looking at some of the numbers, we talked about Clemson's quarterback DJ Uiagalelei was 19 of 32 for 210 yards, a touchdown against Georgia Tech, 13 carries for 19 yards. He lost, obviously, a bit of that yardage because of quarterback sacks, had a rushing touchdown as well. But the guy that a lot of people are starting to pay some attention to, and really have been since he committed to Clemson, is the freshman quarterback Cade Klubnik, who was 4 out of 6 for 49 yards and a touchdown with a long completion of 20 yards. And his touchdown pass was the same play call that won the national championship for Clemson in 2016 against Alabama. Clemson fans have been quick to notice that as well. But Klubnik, highly touted, and a young man they believe is going to be an incredibly good quarterback for Clemson there. How much will he play? When will he play? Talk to some of the coaches we have here. They would not be surprised to see him in this game sooner rather than later, if only because, again, going back to 2018, Kelly Bryant was the starter for Clemson, you remember, early in that season, and it was series number 3 in that game at Death Valley when Furman got its first look at a young man named Trevor Lawrence. We know what happened as that year went on. Lawrence took over. They won the national championship. Furman coaches believe you may see something similar in this game, getting Klubnik in early. Will Shipley is the lead running back, coming back off of injury a year ago. had 10 carries, 42 yards, and a couple of touchdowns in their win over Georgia Tech. Also, a note courtesy of our friend Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers. He's the first Clemson baseball player to score a touchdown for Furman football since Kyle Parker back in 2011. Parker, of course, was a two-sport standout at Clemson as well. Issue for Clemson is going to be not only the play of Uiagalelei at quarterback, but is their offensive line improved over a year ago, and moving forward, how well will they be able to run the football? And they need to get better play across the board out of their wide receivers. So the job of Dwayne Vaughn and the Clemson defense, as we said, muddy things up a little bit and try to show Uiagalelei some looks that make him uncomfortable, because he has shown the ability, obviously, to make some plays, but he has shown the ability as well to get rattled and not be as composed as he should be. Can the Furman defense cause those issues with him? Well, that's going to be one of the tasks, and to do that, they're going to have to get pressure against this Clemson offensive front. On the defensive side of the ball, this is where the Tigers are unquestionably, as I said, one of the best, if not the best, in the nation. KJ Henry, the graduate senior defensive end against Georgia Tech, had 7 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a sack. Brian Breesy had 4 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. His backup, Rook Horohoroho, I think I said that right, 4 tackles. He had a tackle and a half for loss. The strong side linebacker, Barrett Carter, led them in tackles with 8. You get the idea. These are guys who can fly around the football. They can do so much, as mentioned, with their front 4 and then by extension their front 7, that their secondary can be very, very aggressive and play read and react football. They had a single interception by Andrew Makuba, and as we mentioned, they also, on special teams, blocked a couple of kicks, a couple of punts. From a Furman standpoint, what we saw out of Tyler Huff in the first half against North Greenville is something that gives Paladin fans hope, because going back a year ago, really the last 2 seasons, quarterback play has been the biggest question mark for the Clay Hendricks football teams. Jace Wilson took over, as you know, in the middle of last season as a true freshman, had his moments and his growing pains, and in this offseason, Tyler Huff comes in from Presbyterian College, wins the job. The two combined were fantastic against North Greenville. Huff was 10 out of 12 for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns, rushed 5 times for 94 yards, including a 56-yard touchdown, and Wilson was 8 of 9 for 77 yards through the air. That's against North Greenville. Obviously a much, much different challenge against this incredibly good Clemson defense this week. How will they be able to move the football? Got to protect him, and you're going to have to do things quickly. The game is going to be sped up because of the kind of pressure that they can get on the quarterback. It's going to be an intriguing matchup, and as I said, I know in talking to the coaching staff here, they are fully preparing to win this football game, and there's no other way that you can go about it. There simply isn't. And they'll go in, they'll give it their best shot, let the chips fall where they may, and then next week is when, from a Furman standpoint, it gets real, because we open up conference season against East Tennessee State University and our old friend George Quarles. One further non-conference game at Charleston Southern after that, and then starting in 3 weeks, it's nothing but conference play the rest of the way, and you start focusing on winning that conference and making the FCS playoffs. So, while the more important quote-unquote games on Furman's schedule start next week, that doesn't diminish the task at hand this week against the number 4 ranked team in the country. They're going to go in, they're going to give it their best shot. And for these kids, in talking with Clay about this earlier this week, they've been in enough of these games, and there are a handful of Furman players who were actually on the active roster the last time the Paladins played at Clemson in 2018. But, with red shirts and the COVID year and everything else, there's some guys who've been around here for a while. Think of Matt Sachovka, as one who comes to mind immediately, who was here and part of that 2018 regular season championship team. They're not going to be intimidated by the atmosphere. The question is always the depth of these FBS teams and how eventually they wear you down, and of course the talent. There's no questioning the talent that a Clemson has. I'm excited to see how this team plays. I'm excited to see how they compete. Looking forward to it, and who knows? Like I say, you throw in the wrinkle of the expected weather forecast, and you go into a competition thinking that anything can happen. It'll take a lot going right for Clemson or for Furman to win this football game or to be in a position to win it late, but stranger things have happened. It's going to be fun to see. Going to be a great atmosphere. It's Clemson's home opener. Everybody over there is a gaga about this monstrosity of a new scoreboard they have. Wouldn't it be fun if the first touchdown highlight shown on that scoreboard came from a Furman Paladin? Maybe a seam route to tight end Ryan Miller or something like that. Who knows? We'll see how it all works out. I can tell you that, again, the game broadcast is on 97.7 FM, 97.1 FM, Greenville, Spartanburg, the Fan Upstate, Odyssey.com on the Odyssey app. We'll begin with the pregame show, the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff at 2 o'clock, and the kickoff is at 2:30. Looking forward to it. If you can't make it, we hope you'll tune into the broadcast. Working on the possibility of an in-stadium frequency. If not, just remember that you can always go to the Furman Football Facebook page and catch Booth Cam, where you can hear the radio broadcast and watch the interaction that's going on in the booth each and every game, home and away. This has been the Ingles Furman Radio Network game preview. Hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to having you on board for the broadcast on Saturday when Furman travels to number 4 Clemson. Until then, for all of us on the crew and all of us at Furman University, I'm Dan Scott, as always, saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.